Hi, everyone. I think you're going to like this episode. We're going to talk about insects and the incredible impact they can have on our relationship with the planet. So, my guest today is Katharina Unger. She's the founder and CEO of Livin Farms, a Vienna, Austria based developer of technologies for alternative insect protein production. Living Farm has developed an offering that enables food producers to convert their waste from their food production process into insect based proteins that can then be fed to animals, reducing the footprint of animal feed by 90%. Living Farms recently raised a 6 million euros Series A from angel investor Peter Luerssen. Katharina is an industrial designer by background who was raised in a family of farmers, and she started Living Farms 10 years ago, motivated by the desire to have an impact on the footprint our agriculture has on the world. That is the focus of our discussion. I'm very excited about this episode. As you'll see, it's been fascinating. You will learn about how much impact animal feed has on the overall footprint from agriculture on our planet, how larvae can radically reduce the footprint from animal feed, while reducing waste from other food production process, and what is technologically complex about using insects to turn waste into valuable products. And you'll see how Living Farms has cracked the problem and is solving it today. So I hope you enjoy my discussion with Katharina Unger. Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Nathan Pomart and this is Loose, the Climate Tech Podcast. Every week, we interview a founder and explore the stories, ideas, innovations, and businesses behind some of the most inspiring climate tech companies that have a tangible, positive impact on our planet. This show is designed to help you learn, instigate optimism, and inspire further action towards addressing the climate change challenge that we face as a global community. If you are an entrepreneur, business leader, or investor interested in learning more about the climate tech space and how you can play a part in it, this show is for you. So, Katharina, I am very excited for this conversation. Agriculture and meat consumption are so important in terms of the human footprint that we have on the world. And what you're doing in this space, I think, is fascinating. And therefore, I'm really looking forward to diving into it with you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to.
So let's start with you, Katerina. Tell us a bit about your story and how that led you to starting Living Farms.
Sure. I started Livin Farms, or the idea that is behind Livin Farms, working with insects, pretty much 10 years ago. So it's been a while. As a business, we have set it up since 2015, but I started way before then to work on the topic. My background is in industrial design, so I worked in product development previously. I was designing car interiors, exteriors, electronic products, consumer goods, and so on. But my family background is in farming. My father was a miller, a grain miller. So my heart is to a large extent, in agriculture. So when I moved to Hong Kong to work as a designer, my ambition really began to spring up to again do something in agriculture and find the smallest footprint possible to produce protein. So to feed people and feed animals on the smallest footprint possible. And that's when I started to work with insects because the key position of the insect in the ecosystem is to take waste, to eat it, and to convert it to really good protein as a prey, as a bait for other animals. So that's it in a nutshell. I started out prototyping the first device for people to grow insects in their homes, to literally use organic wastes in their homes and turn those into proteins. And over the course of the years after setting up the company, first and foremost in Hong Kong and in Shenzhen, China, where we started out with home farms and manufacturing those. Later on, we ventured into education, but since 2019, our focus is on industrial technologies. So now we're building factories to grow insect larvae on a large scale and help our customers turn waste on an industrial scale into proteins, fats, and fertilizers for animal agriculture.
And before we dive into the details of those two components of your business, kind of the larva and the modular systems, maybe for those less familiar with the context, could you paint the picture of what is your understanding of the impact meat consumption has on, our footprint on the planet, and how much, what is the order of magnitude that we would improve it if, let's say, tomorrow we all shifted to insect based protein, for example?
Right. Okay. So, I mean, animal agriculture is effectively the second largest emitter of greenhouse gases globally speaking, and that doesn't only count in terms of the cows and like all the gases they produce, which is often mentioned, but a lot of that footprint lies in the production of feed for animals. So most of the crops grown in this world, most of the soybeans grown in this world, for example, go to feed animals rather than feeding people, and that takes a lot of the footprint, also water consumption around animal production. So if we continue to produce protein the way we do today, we are contributing to be the second biggest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world. So there is a lot to be done in this field. Of course, if people start eating insects directly, that has an even larger impact. But we can already achieve so much with simply feeding insects to animals. And the benefits are at hand, not only from an impact perspective, but also from an animal health and welfare perspective. It is totally natural for animals to eat insects and animal proteins in nature. Um, and if we compare it to soybean, for example, we save 92% of emissions per unit of protein of soy in comparison to insects. So insects are much, much more efficient in terms of carbon footprint. And another animal feed that is commonly used in agriculture today is fish meal, which is produced out of ocean fish mostly. And for every ton of fish meal, we need 5 tons of fish in the ocean. So every ton of fish meal that we replace with insect meal, which is from a characteristic standpoint, from a performance standpoint, very very similar, or sometimes even outperforms fish meal, we can save 5 tons of fish in the ocean.
Okay, and so tell us where you come in the broader value chain where you fit in. So based on what you said, my understanding is that you help food producers, and would love for you to make that a bit more specific, turn some of the waste in their production process into an output that has value because it's effectively larva that can then be fed to animals, thereby reducing the footprint of the meat production because of what you just said. Um, so, did I get that broadly right? Could you perhaps
Yes,
help
that's
us
correct.
understand kind of who are your customers and who
Mhm.
they sell to the product that you help them produce?
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Maybe stepping back one more step, going back to the topic of vegetable and animal proteins. So, not only is the emission of greenhouse gases a topic, but also land and water usage, right? So, like, one big benefit of insects is that they can eat what would call waste resources. So from an EU level, we have to be a bit careful because we cannot feed insects trash as it comes out of a trash bin. That's illegal for food safety reasons. However, we can feed them materials that come out of food and feed producing places, like organic side streams, we call it technically, that are perfectly safe to use as feed, but they are often of low value. So it cannot be used as a human food anymore. It cannot be used as other animal feed to a large degree. And that concerns, for example, potato byproducts from potato fry producers, pulp from juice fruit industries, and the like, starch producing, all kinds of industries that produce animal feedstuffs or human foodstuffs. They have side streams to thousands of tons per year, and they often lose money on getting rid of it to bringing it to biogas digesting places, or sometimes they make a tiny bit of money on the stream. So it is a financial burden most of the time, and that's exactly where Livin Farms comes in with its offering. So we offer to customers primarily that have access to organic side streams factory solution, so an industrial sized insect factory, plus seedlings, baby larvae, that are automatically inserted into the machine and reared on site. So basically, we set up next to customer A. An example, customer A has a potato factory. They produce 5,000, 7,000 tons of potato byproducts, cuts, and so on every year. We built a factory next to their site or in the very proximity of their existing factory. We simply, in a simplified way, we put a pipe, from their factory to the Livin Farms factory that they own, they buy from us, and there it's being inserted into pellet-sized trays. We ship baby larvae. We call them capsules, so they're in like tiny capsules that are inserted into the feed, and then the insects are fed on the material for 11 days total, and afterwards they're harvested and processed into insect defetted powder, fats, and the side stream is fertilizer. So the poop of the insects is fertilizer for plants again and for agriculture. That's what comes out of the factory. All of this works in an automated fashion, and the customers then sell the end product. So they buy the factory, they buy a baby larva subscription, and they sell the end product that comes out of it. With this, they sell to animal feed industry. So the end product is used in pet food applications, so cat food, dog food, but also poultry, pigs, and fish.
How much extra revenue can your customers make from selling?
Depends on the size of the factory. You can say that if they make revenue on their existing products, so sometimes they can sell their byproducts with little money. Usually they turn the loss into revenue. If they make money on it, they make typically in an average factory size about 10 times the revenue at the minimum when they use our technology. And they amortize the whole factory within, again, depending on the size of the factory, 3 to 5 years at the max. They don't have to hire any skilled labor. They only need unskilled labor. So it comes with a standard operating system. So it's very simple to operate these factories. We designed it so that there's no scientific knowledge or background knowledge needed to run it. So you don't need to know anything about insects to run it.
So it sounds like a no-brainer, I guess, for your customers. Why is it that this is happening only now? What had to change for this to become a possibility compared to a few years ago when, I guess, this was not yet adopted?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I would say the market had to mature a little bit in terms of the R&D that is being done in the insect space. So back in the days when I started out in this field, the only resources to go to was watching people on YouTube grow insects in their basements, basically. So there was not really a lot of scientific work being done on insects as an animal in agriculture. And that has changed tremendously. There's been so much research that was done. Technology is being developed. So this enabled in the last years to not only set up large industrial insect factories, but also to start this segmentation of the market, which is only possible if you are in a mature market where supply chains can be actually figured out and set up accordingly. So to name an example, for example, so one of the key differences why this model works so well in terms of economics is because we do not have our customers do breeding on site. So what does that mean? So the this larva, this insect larva, is a fly. The adult insect is a fly. So the fly mates and lays eggs, and out of these eggs, the tiny baby larvae hatch. And once they are a larva, they are really ferocious eaters, and that's when they accumulate all of the proteins that is interesting for commercialization. Um, the eating of the larva, that part, we call it rearing, that is the most simple process, and the insects are most robust in that stage. But when they're a fly, they're very sensitive, and you basically need to hire PhDs to run your system, to figure out the system, to make sure it stays efficient, and to in the future more and more figure out the DNA and the genetics part of it. So that is way too complicated. It takes way too many resources to run an insect farm. You need to be a huge operation in order to facilitate this. So what we say is, okay, we make sure that the customer has the system and gets baby larvae from us, and they do the most simple process just to make money, and we take care of the complicated part. That wasn't possible a few years back because we didn't have figured out how to ship baby larvae in, like, with a courier service within all of Europe, how to maintain them at the fresh level, at a freshness level, so that they can be then, dosed, that they can be dosed in a really precise way, so they can grow efficiently as well. So all of that had to be figured out. But now we've developed a system where baby larvae are inserted on a growth medium, a moist medium, say it like this. So they maintain moisture levels that maintain the freshness of them. Then they're in the shipment for maximum 5 days in our current system. And when they arrive on site of the customer, they sort of awake from a coma. So they're 5 days old, technically speaking, but they haven't grown. So they're fresh as if they would have freshly hatched from the egg. So they're ready to go, ready to eat, super efficient, and they start eating. And within 11 days, they're grown out and ready to be harvested. And that process just needed a lot of trial and errors, a lot of trials to ship them, to see how they perform, and to figure out that system.
I have a 6-week-old baby larva at home, so I can confirm that they eat a lot and that they're very fragile, but I haven't experimented with shipping them.
You sound like our biologists.
And so, where is your animal farm? Is it near Vienna?
Yes, so we are actually in Vienna. It's still Vienna city zone. It's at the edge of Vienna, close to the airport. So we're about 15 to 20 minutes from Vienna airport, in an industrial site where we have a demonstration factory at 1,000, close to 1,500 square meters. We our demonstration factory here can have an input of roughly 2 to 3,000 tons of uh, feed input per year, and it outputs about 2 to 3 tons of fresh larvae every day. That's the maximum capacity we can run at. And we run this factory here first to show to customers how the system works, how the processes work. But also, it's a testing site, of course. So, like, when we onboard customers, then they typically ship us their materials. So they ship us their potatoes or their fruits and vegetables, whatever it is. We formulate the perfect feed that is most economical and that works best from a biology standpoint. And we run it in trials at our industrial site, so in the real conditions that it will have on the client side. So that ensures then that their factory really will perform in the same way that it says on paper.
What does it mean to formulate the perfect feed? Do you pick between different types of larva, for example, or is
That's a great question. No, the larva are our strain that we grew here. That is our Livin Farm strain. However, the feed formulating the feed is kind of a science by itself because the larva, of course, need a nutritional component in the feed, which like every other animal or any other organism. However, because they live in their feed, so they live in their bedding almost, their larvae, so they crawl through it like in an ocean, if you will. So therefore, the textural component of the feed is quite of a really high importance as well. So it needs to be, we say, fluffy enough so that the larva can move through the substrate and reach all parts of the substrate and eat everything up equally. Because only then you can ensure that the larvae are all of equal size, equally well fed. All these, 25,000 individuals that you have in one single tray. So that's really important, and that requires quite a bit of knowledge, first of all. So our feed trial database exceeds 70 feed substrates that we have tested so far, but it also requires a bit of um, qualitative look at the materials, and that's what we do. That's what we do before we even really start building a factory.
and I guess every time you have a new customer with a different product, be it, I don't know, potato or carrots, or I'm just making up different uh, base products, but I'm sure that influences what you want to combine that with to get to the right.
Exactly, exactly. So every time we do these feasibilities, although I have to say that, of course, the more we test, the more we see, the more substrates we have in our database, the more it becomes something that we can very well calculate early on, to say whether it will work or not.
Yes, yeah. Let's talk about the machines a bit, the modular
Mhm.
systems that you, I guess, install on your customer site. Do you make them yourself, or do you focus on designing them?
Yes. So most of the technology or the machinery that we use in our factories are off the shelf, and that's actually a goal of ours. So, for example, there is no need to reinvent a feed mixer, a crusher, a conveyor belt, that goes into a separation machine, a dryer, press, mill, and so on. That's all standard equipment that is available for agricultural farms, for agricultural applications, or industrial applications, for different segments of the market. But what is our core know-how, that we offer to our customers, is the integration of it. So you will find companies that will offer you a sieving machine for your factory, or and those equipment providers, very often they have already supplied insect factories with it, so they know, okay, already, that they can sell it in that space. However, what is really difficult for the clients at this stage is, does it work with my larva, with my substrate? Because substrate has different moisture contents, and then you can't ensure the same industrial processes just because you have that machine. You need to make the specifications, you need to adapt it to the processes that are going on in your factory. And that's what we do. So we have a team of biologists and engineers and they will look at the material, they will look at the machinery that is needed, they will plan everything out. Then we arrange with third party suppliers that we get the right equipment for the factory, and then we facilitate the setup of it, we build it, and we also do the commissioning of it. So we then send the baby larva and make sure that all the machinery works with our seedling capsules.
Today, your customer base is mostly close to you in Vienna, or are you able to serve customers broader than, geographically?
Geographically speaking, all our existing customers are in the European geographic zone. It's not all EU, but it's all European continent. Um, and This has several reasons. I think. I mean, it's the logistics is easy. I mean, we are in the heart of Europe, so from here we really have a good network to supply to anywhere on the European continent. And yes, but the factories and seedling customers are really everywhere around.
What do you observe when it comes to customers' behavior or prospects, those that are not already customers? What do you see as the outstanding obstacles between them today and them adopting your solution more broadly?
I think right now we are still in a market phase where a lot of customers need to be educated about the application opportunities. About there is still, I would say, not a sufficient level of applications in the marketplace to convince a really broad range of customers. So right now, it's really a lot of customers that come. They are either, I would not say early adopters, but they are educated customers. They have educated themselves already in the space, or they have already a good grasp of what is needed to set up a production, or to sell the end product. But in the next years, we will see a lot of growth in that. We will see a lot more applications, a lot more factories that will be set up. And with this, the general awareness and the general education level of customers and the general public, I think, will grow a lot. And that will help us also reach a wider audience.
Who do you need to talk to within your customers' organizations to get your product adopted? Is it, the head of the production line, or is it somebody maybe at the group level who is trying to optimize revenues, like the CFO,
Hmm.
or kind of who are your main people that you need to engage with in order
Yeah.
to um, to get the
Yeah.
momentum and
Yeah, I would say right now that's a question where I would not say like it is possible to give one straight answer. It really depends. We have customers that are at different company sizes, so a lot of times we speak to owners or general managers that think that this is an interesting space and they want to look at the options that they have to venture into there. Um, Sometimes we also talk to engineering departments that are planning factories, operations, sites, and so on. But I would say probably the majority of it right now is really management level or even owner level.
got it. The landscape of your customers, from what you say, suggests that it's a very fragmented landscape with lots of small food producers. Is that fair to say, or do you also have like large groups that represent a big share?
We also have large groups, but most of it, yes, is a more fragmented space.
And so you recently announced Series A for $5.8 million. So first of all,
Thanks.
congratulations. I'm very excited to see what you deploy and the growth that you can
Mhm.
get from that. Can you tell us a bit about um, who who is in your investor base, uh, and then what is the plan? What you're planning to do with this additional capital?
Yeah. Right. So yes, it's a 6 million euro round, and it was led by Peter Luerssen. He's a uh, private venture investor who's active in large hardware industry, building yachts and so on. Also investing a lot in agricultural projects and hardware projects. We also have SOS Ventures on board. They're the most active VC in hardware, and they just recently ventured into industrial hardware as well, which is a great fit. And they've been with us from day one, and still with our vision today. We use this investment primarily for investing in the team, in the growth of the team. As well as in scaling our seedling production. So what we do right now to a large extent is we ship our seedlings around Europe already. We have customers who are buying it even if they are not running our factories, but they run their own factories, their own production sites. But for them, it's a big relief to have access to this product. And in order to satisfy our customers that we have already in the pipeline, we're now building out production, doing a lot of modifications and a lot of optimizations for those products.
Katharina, thank you so much. This has been a fascinating discussion. And before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, what is the thing that most surprised you since you started this adventure? Something you did not expect that you had to learn along the way. And
Yeah, good question. I think there's been many surprises along the way. I would say that um, we did not expect that, or what I can say, what maybe didn't surprise me so much, but other people, I think, did not think that within 10 years of basically zero market to a substantial market that we have today, a lot of people didn't expect the market to grow so fast within this amount of time. So I think that's very optimistic. We've seen a lot of progress there. So there's a lot of bright things I think to look forward to in the future.
thank you, Katharina. It's been fascinating to talk about the details of what you do and very inspiring. So we'll keep following your journey and hopefully have you again um, in a couple of years or months to hear how it's going.
Thanks so much, you too. Thank you.
You can find out more about Livin Farms on their website, livinfarms.com. If you enjoyed the episode, follow us on your favorite podcast app and stay tuned for more insightful conversations with some of the most inspiring climate tech founders.